on mass media platforms and social networking sites in recent days. There has been a high frequency of information, comments, reviews, and contradictory assessments related to the phenomenon of an individual, commonly known as Thichminhtue. Monk Mintu affirms that he is not a Buddhist monk, does not practice, and is not a staff member of any pagoda or monastery of the Vietnam Buddhist Sangha. Before becoming a phenomenon on social networks, Monk Mintu had quietly practiced asceticism for nearly 6 years, and had a short time practicing at a pagoda. But because he felt it was not suitable, he chose to switch to this Dharma, walking alone with bare feet and a robe, patched together from scraps of fabric he picked up, using the core of a rice cooker instead of an alms bowl, not accepting any offerings other than the food for his only meal of the day. He lived a homeless life, focusing his body and mind on seeking enlightenment according to the Buddha's path, not preaching, not accepting disciples, not claiming to be a teacher. This monk has repeatedly affirmed that he is just a Vietnamese citizen who is learning to follow the Buddha's teachings. This statement is not necessarily humility but honesty. Monk Mintu himself knows that the path he must take is still very long. Although the journey over the years has helped him let go of many hatreds, so that he is no longer selfish, hateful, and considers everyone as his brothers and parents. Now if you scold me, I still consider you a friend. If someone beats me, I still wish them all the best, as he admitted. For those who are wholeheartedly seeking liberation like Master Mintu, the honor, worship, or slander and blasphemy towards him are all worldly matters, not the issues he is concerned with solving. However, the admiration and respect of the public should be expressed correctly and wisely, so as not to turn good things into trouble, annoyance or gossip. This ascetic monk should be respected as a true practitioner, and that respect does not mean denying the true practitioners who follow other paths. Buddhism has thousands of methods of practice. Those who want to achieve enlightenment can choose the most suitable method of practice, making diligent efforts based on themselves to find a way to reach nirvana. Monk Mintu is also doing the same, like many other monks who either quietly practice in seclusion or go out into the world to help people that the public does not or rarely knows about. Monk Mintu practices asceticism. Some look at his behavior and clothes and slander him, saying that he is crazy, that he is self-mortifying and lacking wisdom, not following the middle path that the Buddha encouraged. But those who slander him do not know that Monk Mintu is practicing according to the true Dharma. He follows the teachings in the original sutras, which are to leave his family, live a celibate life, a pure and clean lifestyle, let go of everything, have few desires and be content. People mistake asceticism for the ascetic practice. During the first 6 years of the Buddha's quest for enlightenment, that asceticism is self-mortification, mortification of the body, causing the body to suffer much pain, originating from Brahmanism. Thus, asceticism in some sense is the precursor of the middle path and is still closest to it. Many people believe that practicing is important for wisdom, rather than torturing the body, but they confuse worldly wisdom with Buddha's wisdom. Worldly wisdom is the cognitive ability of humans that comes from genetics and learning, while Buddha's wisdom is only opened when the practitioner knows how to strictly observe the precepts. Only with precepts can there be concentration, and only with concentration can there be wisdom. Therefore, the Buddha said, where there is discipline, there is wisdom, and vice versa. The core of practicing asceticism is to end all worldly afflictions, because this practice helps practice. Practice helps practitioners to protect the senses, not be controlled by circumstances, and gradually eliminate greed, anger, and ignorance. That is why practitioners only eat one meal a day, reducing their greed for food. Sleeping while sitting reduces their greed for sleep, because lying down will easily make them fall into a deep sleep. Wearing 3 robes, essentially a set, is a minimal need, reducing dependence and attachment to clothes. Some people criticize the ascetic practice for not living alone in the forest, but wandering around the country. They also say that nowadays, finding forests in Vietnam like the time of the Buddha is impossible. The master also had a time of seclusion on Sand Mountain. So why did the master decide to choose to walk around the country? As the master answered, it was to study and practice health. In fact, if you understand deeply, the master is practicing the right Dharma. Lie, because walking like that is the way for the monk to be mindful of the body, feelings, mind, and phenomena. Because one must live in suffering, no suffering, and experience suffering in order to clearly understand the cause of suffering. At that time, suffering will end by itself. Not hoping to escape suffering to find happiness. On the monk's path, if the monk is tempted by material things, money, beauty, then greed has arisen. Or feels annoyed when many people surround and disturb, then anger has arisen. In history, since the time of the Buddha, he and his disciples went begging everywhere. Nowadays, there are also some who practice Tambo Nat Bai 3 steps 1 bow, Nat Bo Nat Bai 1 step 1 bow, or practice asceticism like monk Minh Tuệ. Asceticism is a Buddhist practice, wearing patched clothes, eating 1 meal a day, sleeping under a tree at night, or in an abandoned house, cemetery, not accepting offerings, refusing all comforts and enjoyments, Monk Minh Tue's way of practicing reminds us of the image of the Buddha and the Sangha. In the past, therefore, the scornful, critical comments that show surprise to attack are a type of behavior that shows ignorance, if not malice, jealousy, discrimination, envy. Monk Minh Tuệ is a rare example of a free person, free to choose his own way of life. The monk does not like to be bound, not only with his family, in accordance with the spirit of renunciation, maintaining equality in relationships, but also with any organization. But the monk still absolutely obeys the laws of life, absolutely obeys the precepts and scriptures of the Buddha, the religion he is following and sets forth. The monk is a person who can say and do, always speaking and doing consistently. The monk is a person with courage and compassion. The monk has the ability to be patient and endure to the utmost. The monk does not know how to lie or tell lies. The monk lives happily, optimistically, and always spreads positive things. Not to mention, the monk is also a very humble person. Humble, lowering himself before the world when calling himself child. This is completely different from the way of life of superiority and inferiority that we are seeing everywhere, bowing down before food, flattering words before fame and fortune, bowing down and praising before power, isolating and bullying the weak, the unarmed. The path to enlightenment and liberation has been opened, supporting the footsteps of a citizen, a purist monk. The group of Master Minh Tuệ started from Vietnam and will officially go through countries such as Laos, Thailand, Myanmar, Bangladesh, and the group stop is in India and Nepal. To support Master Minh Tuệ to go to India, Mr. Don Van Bao accompanied him. When he had just read the letter of Master Minh Tuệ wished to walk to India, Don Van Bao went to GLI to meet the Master and volunteered to support Master Minh Tuệ in completing legal procedures for entry and exit, planning the route, surveying the route in advance in the countries that Master Minh Tuệ group passed through, to ensure security and order, as well as safe places for begging and sleeping for the masters. Mrs. Don Van Bao is a security officer with the rank of Lieutenant Colonel, a university lecturer, currently retired after 25 years of working in the industry. Because he admired the virtue of Master Minh Tuệ, Mr. Don Van Bao arranged his family affairs, temporarily stopped party activities and temporarily put aside his own business at his own company to volunteer to support Master Minh Tuệ to walk to India. Besides, we cannot fail to mention the meritorious contribution of Mr. QUадц. Mr. Giap is a son of Hai Duan. Mr. QUадц has more than 7 years of experience walking through 13 countries in the world, including Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, Myanmar, Bangladesh, India, Nepal. He has walked through all of them. Mr. Giap is very familiar with the roots and cultural customs of the indigenous people in those countries. Although Mr. QUадц and his wife had just given birth to their first child, Mr. Giap asked both sets of parents to stay home and take care of his wife and child, so that he could fulfill his most sacred wish, which was to help bring Master Minh Tuệ, an outstanding monk of Vietnam. Master Minh Tuệ made a great vow that he would walk from Vietnam to the land of Buddha, India, to study and practice. Let me tell you a story about the law of cause and effect in Buddhism. One early spring night when everyone was fast asleep, an elderly couple entered the hotel, but unfortunately the hotel was full. The receptionist couldn't bear to let them find another hotel, so he led them to a room and said, "This is not a good room, but at least it will save you from having to look for a room in the middle of the night." The couple saw that the room was clean and decided to stay. The next morning when they paid for the room, the receptionist said, "You don't need to pay because that's my room. Have a nice trip." It turned out that the receptionist had given them his room and slept at the counter. The elderly couple was very touched. "Young man, you are truly the best hotel employee we have ever met. You will definitely be rewarded." The young man smiled and saw them off at the door, quickly forgetting about that day. One fine day, he received a letter in which was a ticket to New York. The young man began his journey and followed the letter's instructions to find a luxurious villa. The old couple who opened the door to welcome him were the old couple from before. It turned out that he was a billionaire. He bought a wine shop for the young man and gave him the management. This is the cause and effect of life. In fact, each of us holds the cause and effect. When we have not yet determined the great goal of our life, let's do it with all our heart. Living in this world requires many experiences. Sometimes we will have hearty laughter, but we cannot avoid tears of pain. On the road of life, there will be joy from success, but failure will bring us awakening. Through these Buddhist
Này con đây, xin Chúa hãy sai con đi, đi làm chứng nhân cho Ngài và trở nên mối men cho đời, cho người khắp nơi. Từ bao năm qua, lời Ngài hằng luôn thiết tha. Con thân thưa với Ngài, này con đây Chúa ơi, xin Ngài hãy sai con đi. Này con đây, xin Chúa hãy sai con đi, đi làm chứng nhân cho Ngài và trở nên mối men cho đời, cho người khắp nơi. Trần gian khổ và trở nên muối men cho đời, cho người khắp nơi. Nguyện dẫn tương lai đường đời còn bao biến thay, Chúa hãy ở cùng và nâng đỡ con từng ngày. Con xin hiến trọn đời, truyền loan tin vui nước trời, để muôn dân khắp nơi trở thành chứng nhân tình trời. Này con đây, xin Chúa hãy sai con đi, đi làm chứng nhân cho Ngài và trở nên muối men cho đời, cho người.